Do you know what truly happens when your cat arches his back at the base of his tail? To the human eye, it seems playful, almost like an invitation. A gesture we interpret as affection, a ritual we repeat without question. Yet beneath that delicate rise of the hips lies a secret, a reflex woven into the cat's very nervous system. And it is here that we begin to understand the spiritual meaning of cats, why patting your cat's butt is not what it seems, and why every touch carries the weight of trust. Cats are creatures of mystery. Their language is not built from words, but from subtle signs, a tail swishing like a pendulum between moods, ears pivoting like tiny compass needles, eyes blinking slowly as if to whisper, "You are safe with me." We long to read this hidden script, but too often we mistake reflex for desire. At the base of the cat's spine lies a cluster of nerve endings so sensitive that even the lightest touch triggers an automatic response. This is not consent. It is not joy. It is a neuromuscular reflex no different than the knee-jerk reaction when a doctor taps your leg with a small hammer. Imagine mistaking that unconscious twitch for delight. That is what happens when we read a cat's butt lift as pleasure. Veterinarians and animal behaviorists have studied this phenomenon. They call it tail-based sensitivity, a response tied to ancient instincts of mating behavior, self-defense, and heightened alertness. For female cats, this reflex was once essential for reproduction. For neutered or spayed cats, the wiring remains a ghost in the nervous system. To stroke this area casually, to pat it as if it were a playful button, is to trigger a memory coded not in the mind, but in the body. Your cat may raise his hips. He may even purr. But these are not unambiguous signs of happiness. They are echoes of primal biology. Consider the story of Emily, a retired nurse who lived alone after her children left home. Her tabby Jasper was her constant companion, her spiritual pet, her reminder that she was never abandoned. Out of habit, she tapped him near the tail each time he crossed her lap. He would lift his hindquarters, and Emily thought it was their special game. But over time, she noticed something shift. Jasper no longer settled on her lap. He lingered at the edges of the room, watching but not resting. A bond that once felt like comfort began to cool. Only after speaking with her veterinarian did Emily realize the truth. Her affectionate ritual was in Jasper's body an intrusion. When she stopped, when she began to stroke only his cheeks and under his chin, Jasper slowly returned, curling against her chest as if forgiving her mistake. That quiet forgiveness felt to Emily like grace, a second chance to love more wisely. This is the lesson: not every reaction is approval. Sometimes what we read as love is only tolerance. Sometimes silence is not acceptance but surrender. And in these moments, the cat teaches us a sacred truth about all relationships. Respect is the foundation of love. Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, spoke of how animals act as mirrors of our inner lives, carrying messages from the unseen realms. Perhaps this sensitive place on a cat's body is more than a physical reflex. Perhaps it is a symbol of boundaries, the invisible lines that protect the soul. To honor those lines in our cat is to practice the same reverence we owe to God's creation, to one another, and to the still small voice within. Imagine this reflex not as a nuisance, but as a sacred reminder. When your hand reaches too casually for that sensitive spot, pause. See the moment as a test of awareness. Will you act out of habit, or will you choose respect in every flick of the tail, every stiffened back? God may be whispering, "Love listens first." The Bible tells us in Proverbs that the righteous care for the needs of their animals. What if caring means more than food and shelter? What if it means learning their silent language, honoring their hidden boundaries, and seeing in their eyes a reflection of divine trust? And here is where the mystery deepens. Cats are not like dogs, who often forgive quickly and wear their hearts openly. Cats are guardians of thresholds, mystic companions whose very presence has been revered from Egypt to Japan. To misunderstand their signals is not merely to risk a scratch, it is to miss a chance at communion. The spiritual meaning of cats lies in this. They are teachers of patience, guardians of respect, vessels of quiet healing. To pat their butt without awareness is not just to cross a nerve cluster, but to ignore a message from the divine hidden in their body. So the next time your cat arches at your touch, ask yourself, is this a reflex or a revelation? Is he telling you yes? Or is his body simply remembering a script written long before you came into his life, when you choose to pause to stroke his cheeks, to meet his slow blink with your own? You are choosing reverence. You are entering a sacred conversation where love is not assumed but offered, not demanded but received. This is the opening to a new perspective. Love is not measured by how much we give, but by how carefully we listen. Your cat is not just an animal. He is a messenger of boundaries, a reflection of God's teaching that even the smallest creatures deserve respect. And if we learn to read his language, we may find that in caring for him, we are also learning to care for the divine presence in our own lives. And so we ask, if the hidden reflex reveals the boundary, what happens when we cross that line again and again? What scars are left on the bond, not on the skin, but on the soul of the cat who cannot speak? In the next section, we will step deeper into this silence, into the invisible cost of misunderstanding and the quiet grief that grows when sacred trust is broken. Silence can carry wounds deeper than any hiss or scratch. When we mistake reflex for consent, when we tap and pat a place never meant for casual affection, the damage rarely arrives in a flash of claws. Instead, it seeps quietly like water through stone, reshaping the heart of your spiritual pet in ways you may not notice until it is too late. Cats and spirituality have always been entwined with mystery. These mystic cats carry themselves as if draped in sacred cloth, guardians of unseen doors. And yet, despite their sacred aura, they remain fragile. Not fragile in body, but in trust. To violate their boundaries, even unknowingly, is to chip away at the bridge of faith they extend to you. A cat may not shout no. Instead, he speaks in whispers, a tail flick, a tense shoulder, a pause before leaping onto your lap. Ignore those whispers long enough, and they stop trying to speak altogether. Behaviorists call it overstimulation. Vets note the signs: irritability, avoidance, sudden swats after prolonged petting. The long-term impact goes further. Chronic stress can harden into anxiety, into withdrawal, even into illness. Cats who endure too much touching at the tail base often begin to associate human hands with discomfort. And when trust in touch erodes, the cat withdraws emotionally. He may sit across the room instead of curling against your chest. He may sleep apart instead of on your pillow. He may love you still, but from a distance, and that distance becomes the quiet price of misunderstanding. Consider the story of Luna. She was a rescue found trembling beneath an abandoned porch adopted by a couple who adored her. They gave her toys, food, soft blankets, and they gave her something else, a ritual. Each time she walked by, they tapped her on the rear, laughing at the way she arched. They thought it was sass, a mystic cat behavior that made her unique. But Luna changed. Slowly at first, she hid more, came when called, less stiffened at their hands. Eventually, she hissed not out of malice, but exhaustion. At the vet's office, when the doctor ran her hand gently along Luna's spine, Luna flinched violently. "This is overstimulation," the vet explained. "She's not enjoying the touch. She's enduring it." That single word, enduring, struck like a bell. Love, without listening, had turned into quiet trauma. "There is a lesson here, one," the Bible echoes. "Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not insist on its own way. True love, even toward animals, asks, it does not assume." To ignore a cat's subtle no is to insist on our own language instead of learning theirs. And in doing so, we break something sacred. Edgar Cayce often spoke of animals as companions of the soul, mirrors of our deeper selves. When we disrespect their signals, we are not only wounding them, but also ignoring the reflection they offer, a mirror, showing us where we too fail to listen in our human relationships. Every pat on the tail base, repeated without consent, sends a message: what you want does not matter. Over time, the cat believes it. He retreats not because he hates you, but because safety has become uncertain. This is the silent cost of misunderstanding. Like a candle flame dimming in a draft, trust fades not with a bang, but with a flicker. Different cats endure this in different ways. The introverted, sensitive cat, often the mystic pet who hides beneath the bed, may carry trauma longer, requiring weeks of patient silence before venturing close again. The social, extroverted cat may appear unaffected, yet over time his affection shifts into caution. Understanding these archetypes is essential. Just as some souls are more tender than others, so too are cats. To know them is to honor their nature, not force them into a mold. But here is the opening to a new perspective. Trauma is not the end. Healing begins with awareness. By slowing down, by sitting quietly on the floor, by offering a slow blink instead of a tap, you begin to repair what was broken. The cat's body remembers pain, but it also remembers gentleness. Through silence, play, and safe zones of touch, the cheeks, the chin, the sacred places where cats choose to be stroked, you show them again that your hands are safe. In this patient work, you are not just healing your cat. You are practicing a kind of prayer, a reverence for God's creatures that reshapes your own spirit. Spiritual awakening often comes not in visions, but in small acts of respect. In learning to stop your hand, you learn the larger rhythm of restraint. In waiting for consent, you practice love as God intended, a love that does not intrude but listens, waits, and honors. Your cat becomes not only your companion, but your teacher. He teaches you how to love in silence, how to honor boundaries invisible yet holy, how to see that in every small creature lies a divine message. So we must ask ourselves if even our pets, our mystic cats, deserve such reverence. How much more does every living soul? In honoring them, we align with the truth. Both Cayce and Scripture affirm that all life is interwoven, that every act of respect ripples into eternity. And thus, the question remains, if patting your cat's butt risks quiet trauma, then what does true affection look like? Where are the sacred zones of touch? The places where love flows freely and trust deepens instead of erodes. To find that answer, we must step beyond trauma and into sacred practice, into the art of touching our cats in a way that mirrors divine tenderness itself. Every touch is more than contact of skin and fur. Every stroke is a word, in a language too ancient for speech, a language that binds you to your cat in ways both mystical and divine. To touch with reverence is to speak in the dialect of the soul. And when we learn this sacred vocabulary, our cats respond not with tolerance, but with trust, a trust that feels like a small reflection of God's own love. So, where should our hands go? Not to the vulnerable base of the tail, where reflex hides beneath confusion. Instead, to the safe zones that cats themselves present as offerings, the cheeks where scent glands mark you as family. Under the chin where they cannot groom themselves. Behind the ears, tender places that whisper, I trust you with what I cannot reach. Along the top of the head and across the shoulders where they melt into your presence. These are not random spots. They are spiritual invitations, sacred signs that your cat extends to you when he leans in and lingers. But even sacred touch must be given with humility. The 2-second rule is not just a technique, it is a prayer of patience. Stroke for a heartbeat, then pause. Watch. Does your cat press closer? Eyes half closed, body soft. Continue. Does the tail flick, the ears swivel back, the breath grow shallow? Then stop. Consent is not permanent. It is renewed moment by moment like manna in the wilderness. To honor these micro yeses and micro nos is to practice love in its purest form, love that listens. Consider David, a widower who found solace in his calico named Daisy. After his wife's passing, Daisy became his shadow, his silent confidant. Yet in his grief, he sought comfort through constant touch, stroking her long past the point of relaxation. Soon Daisy began to pull away her tail, twitching her eyes, wary. Only when David learned to pause to let Daisy choose the moment did their bond heal. She returned to his lap, curling over his heart at night, purring in a rhythm that felt to David like God's own reassurance, I am with you always. In this simple adjustment, David discovered a lesson larger than cats, that love is never forced, but always invited. there are other ways to bond beyond hands. Voice, too, is touch carried on breath. Speak gently with soft cadence, using your cat's name as though it were a psalm. Play, too, is holy. The dance of a wand toy across the floor is not just exercise, but ritual, awakening the hunter's spirit in a safe and joyful way. Feeding, offered at the same time each day, becomes a liturgy of trust. Even silence is a gift, sitting on the floor at your cat's level, offering a slow blink. A gesture Cayce himself might have called a transmission of energy, a healing current passed without a word. Through these rituals, you create not just affection, but a temple of safety. And this is where the spiritual meaning of cats shines most brightly. In Egypt, they were seen as guardians of the divine protectors of thresholds. In Japan, the maneki neko raises its paw as a symbol of blessing and good fortune. In your own home, your cat is both guardian and messenger, carrying whispers of the sacred through their presence. They are not merely mystical animals. They are spiritual pets, emissaries of God's tenderness, reminding us that true power lies in gentleness. Perhaps this is why so many grieving souls feel their cats arrive as miracle pets, appearing at the precise moment of deepest loneliness, sleeping on their chest as though to keep their heart beating, watching them with eyes that seem to carry the rainbow bridge itself. Edgar Cayce once said that animals sometimes serve as channels for unseen forces, bearing comfort from realms beyond our sight. When you honor their boundaries, when you learn their love language, you open yourself to these unseen messages, these divine interventions wrapped in fur and silence. The lesson here is simple yet profound. Touching your cat with respect is not only for their sake. It reshapes you. It teaches you patience, awareness, reverence. It draws you closer to the rhythm of God's love, which never intrudes but always invites. In every slow blink, in every gentle purr, there is a reflection of the holy, a reminder that you too are seen, known, and loved without force. So I invite you now to reflect. Think of the last time you reached for your cat. Did you pause to listen? Did you notice the symbols in their body language, the whisper of the tail, the direction of the ears, the mystery in their eyes? Or did you act from habit, assuming instead of asking? This is not only about your cat. It is about the soul. To slow down, to listen, to honor the sacred signs around you. This is the beginning of awakening, the gentle doorway to a love that heals both human and animal alike. And if these words stirred something in you, if they opened your eyes to the deeper meaning of your cat's presence in your life, then I invite you to take one simple step. Honor this message by pausing, reflecting, and sharing it with others who love cats and long for healing. Click like, subscribe, and let this channel be not just another voice online, but a small sanctuary where every story, every lesson, every whisper of fur and faith reminds us that God's love is near even in the quiet eyes of a cat.